6. Rusty never shared his knowledge of the prophecy with his family. He decided to be a passive guide to his children and grandchildren while keeping things on a need-to-know basis. He ended up marrying several women and had a lot of children, which was indicative of godlike behavior. Several grandchildren later, he continued to wonder which one the prophecy would choose. He paid a lot of attention to his true love, Ariadne, a goddess with native bloodlines. She came from a long line of storytellers and shamans. Her family was also familiar with both the other world, where spirits spoke with the living, and the underworld, where the dead received new contracts, became a permanent resident, or were banished for eternity among the damned. Ariadne's bloodline was capable of manipulating forces of nature, like the weather, the elements, the animals, and plant life. Rusty felt a divine connection with her. As he struggled with the day-to-day anxieties of life, he found her to be the most understanding and comforting. Recognizing prophetic gifts in her, he intuitively knew her line would be where the grandchild's power came from. Thomas reaches out to Rusty during the summer of 1975 and tells him,
"I'm ready to meet."
Rusty brought his grandson, Ledger, to meet Bridget, both 3 years old.
"Claire says we will know the connection when we see it,"
Thomas claims. Ledger was Rusty's favorite grandson, and he had high hopes the prophecy would choose him. Rusty would have done anything for his grandson. Unfortunately, during their visit, Ledger hit Bridget in the face and made her cry. Immediately, Thomas and Rusty looked at each other and laughed.
"Oh boy, this is going to turn out well."
Thomas chuckles. As he picks up his adopted daughter, Rusty grins and shakes his head.
"His dad is one mean son of a bitch. I'm sorry."
Thomas replies,
"No problem. Claire said this connection was going to happen soon, which could be years in her world. Bridget is a tough little shit herself. She'll be okay."
A little more than a year passed by, and Jacqueline, or Jackie, Rusty's favorite daughter, announced she was going to have a girl. She was going to be Ledger's little sister. At this time, not only were the gods paying attention, so were both the ghouls and the angels. Their spiritual practitioners had everyone on high alert, as there was an energy swirling around the birth of this child. Thomas, also in the process of learning who he would adopt next. Having adopted other children, this child was going to be adopted out of special circumstances. With the knowledge that Rusty's new grandchild was going to be a girl, the news he received about adopting a boy gave him hope that they might be the chosen ones. Thomas is told by Claire,
"The boy will follow in your footsteps."
Finding success if the child is trained and learns how to follow what seems like an unnatural path. Thomas had entered into a relationship with his assistant. He fooled around with her on several occasions until she became pregnant. He wasn't sure if the child was his. She had a reputation for being a party girl and currently had a new boyfriend. When she gave birth to the boy, he knew he would not be able to continue the relationship with her. His circle would not understand the relationship, and besides, he was in love with Claire. Immediately, the child was mistreated by the mother's boyfriend, who told everyone,
"I'm not even 100% sure he's mine."
Both the mother and the boyfriend continued to party, and there was some suspicion that the boy was being abused. One night, while partying hard in their apartment, the boyfriend carelessly swung the boy around and smacked his head against the wall. Showing no remorse about what he had done, he handed the boy off to his mother and told her to make him stop crying. Witnesses at the party reported the incident, and Child Protective Services decided to remove the child from the mother's custody. She claimed the boy suffered from whiplash. The mother reached out to Thomas in hopes that he would claim the boy as his own and take care of him. Thomas consulted with the social workers and asked them to bring the boy to his home for the weekend. He stated he may be the father and needed to make living arrangements. Thomas decided to take responsibility for the boy and called him his own. Thomas struggled with the idea of being the kid's father, but he knew the boy was different. Thomas strolled into Claire's parlor, entering from the back room where she stored the scrolls. Looking down at the boy in his arms, his smile wrapped from ear to ear, he discovered the boy's eyes shined with a golden radiance after introducing him to the Master Scroll, the same way Rusty's eyes lit up. As the next few months passed, Rusty could sense entities and spirits surrounding his family. They circled like sharks in bloody waters. He remembers what Claire told him.
There's nothing you can do.
All he could do was wait. December crept up on everyone as the holidays filled with joyous moments. Christmas Day was coming, and Rusty secretly wondered if Jackie would have a baby with the spirit of Christ, thinking to himself,
This child will be significant, but Christ? Nah, that's not even his real birthday. How absurd.
And then, one evening, he gets the call. 7. It would have been nice to think that Rusty's grandchild's arrival would have been met with love, joy, and happiness. On the surface, yes, the family gathered for her birth with a celebration. However, something far more sinister was lurking in the shadows, waiting to consume her. 1977, hospital room. Jackie was exhausted from delivering her baby girl, whom she named Catherine, or Kate. Overall, she was a healthy baby, but was born with a club foot. Being that Jackie was a petite woman, her leg had wrapped around her body so she could fit inside the womb. The nurses take Kate from Jackie and tell her,
The doctor will be in shortly to discuss our options on correcting her leg.
Jackie stayed awake, worrying about her baby girl's leg falling in and out of consciousness, while the hospital staff rushed back and forth from her room. Lying on her side, Jackie became coherent and glanced outside of the window, where she saw 3 red-tailed hawks sitting in a tree looking at her. Rolling away from the window toward the door, she was surprised to see 3 faces in green scrubs and masks. They gazed at her with golden eyes. Frozen, lying in the hospital bed, she was unable to move or talk. The doctors telepathically tell Jackie, as they stand over her,
Shh, you're okay. We need to quickly tell you something about your daughter, Kate. People are going to call this child evil. They are going to accuse her of being immoral. They are going to hurt her in the name of God. They are going to say she's imperfect and that there is something wrong with her. We want you to know they are the ones who are wrong. She is the purest form of love and is going to do extraordinary things in her lifetime. She is going to struggle with her fate, but at all costs you must support her even in the face of evil.
One of the masked individuals looks over their shoulder.
Hurry! They are coming.
You must not believe the lies. There is going to be a lot of doubt. Just know that no matter what happens, she will be okay. Kate has had multiple surgeries tonight, some of which you are unaware. Take comfort in knowing that she has been given the eyes of a tiger, the ears of an angel, and the mind of the greats. Believe in her. We have to go now.
And they vanish from the room. Jackie had just been visited by the insects. They knew about the angels and how they wanted to contain Kate's energy by becoming their own pseudo-gods to maintain their power and status. The amount of time that passed by since she was born seemed like more than a day. Jackie could sense something was going on with Kate, with everyone rushing about. She became anxious and started to ask the staff questions, in which they responded with more sedatives. The hospital where Jackie delivered Kate was actually a lab created by the angels to monitor and control her life. With partial knowledge of a prophecy and predictions suggesting she would be the one who would take away their power, this dictated their every move. The angels were in fact no angels. They were hypocrites masquerading as good people. The head angel tells his people,
Let her ears be our ears while we keep watch over her. She is to never amount to anything unless she is one of us. We will make it our mission to discredit her by damaging her reputation via whisper campaigns. We will embed into society that she is evil and create doubt about her abilities. We must find out who she interacts with and make them dislike her.
The head angel scoffed at the idea of Kate being sovereign or a goddess, or that she would be loved by many people. The idea that she would prevent them from achieving their goal of becoming God burned them up inside. The doctor brings Kate back into the room and tells Jackie,
"We were able to fix her leg. Unfortunately, we had to break the bones in her foot and reset her feet into casts. This is to make sure she is able to walk normal. She is in a lot of pain and will be quite fussy."
What the surgeon failed to inform her was that they implanted a hearing device deep inside of her ears. Kate struggled to hear because of the device placed inside her ear. She was told she was deaf and dumb. Jackie took her to her doctor appointments to have her ears cleaned out by removing the buildup around the device. This helped her hear again. While in the office, she screamed out in pain as they scraped out her ears, leaving permanent scars. The device made her have strange dreams at night. Lying on her back in a darkened room, she heard the echoes of the device that scared her. The sounds faded in and out, almost as if she were being haunted. The torture did not stop there. Kate was mistreated by angel practitioners. They viewed her as a test subject. While at the dentist, they dislocated her jaw by yanking it to the side during checkups. They also forced her to take fluoride, which made her sick and wanting to throw up. Other angel practitioners abused her by putting suppositories in her rectum when she went to the doctor sick with the flu. It seemed as though every angel medical professional despised her and violated her space by poking and prodding away. The ghouls were also hellbent on studying Kate, as they also had insight about her bloodline and powers. This knowledge gave them an agenda of their own. They stood by and waited for the perfect time to retrieve samples from her. The insects knew the challenges she would have to face, and they did their best to ease those burdens. They gave her short-term amnesia. Every day she would start again new. She was unable to recall the previous day until weeks later. By this time, her memories had been stored into her long-term memory, ready for retrieval. This break in her brain circuitry helped her become resilient over time. Flashing back to the operating room when Kate was born, a note with a diagram and message floated in the air. It read,
"Some things in this world are meant to be left alone. It is when we attempt to play God, we find ourselves in a pickle."
The note was passed from one insect to the other while they looked over her little body. The last insect read the message, and the paper disappeared into thin air like smoke. They reached down and touched her on the forehead between her eyes, and her pupils began to shine like gold. She was now connected to all realms and could see all dimensions, including the other world and the underworld. Jackie shared with Rusty how the community had been shunning her and Kate. She felt excluded from attending certain events. She was having difficulty finding anyone to take care of Kate while she went to work. Unfortunately, when she did find someone to watch Kate, they physically abused her. Jackie picked Kate up and found bruises on her legs and hips. Returning to the daycare to confront them about what they did to Kate, the people at the daycare refused to open their doors to explain the marks on her body. Jackie reached out for help from her friends out of desperation. They did tarot readings on Kate and told her more about their situation. Time and time again, during the readings, the devil card would show up. The readers failed to explain to Jackie the multiple meanings of the devil card, which could have meant something other than the representation of evil. For example, Kate was a Capricorn, which was also represented by the devil card. As the community heard rumors about the readings, angels continued their whisper campaign that the family was evil, saying that
the devil lives in water.
Rusty's wealth was tied to owning utilities like water and other trade commodities. The angels proclaimed they would never allow the family to become prominent unless they joined their group. Rusty already worked with the gods, and he could care less of what the angels thought of him or his family. Jackie began to resent Kate as the seeds of doubt started to grow among their community. She ruminated about distancing herself from Kate and returning to the social scene. One day, while cutting Kate's hair, something came over Jackie. She walked over to the stereo and turned up the song Staying Alive by the Bee Gees. Grabbing the scissors off the table, she walked into the bathroom where Kate was waiting to have her hair cut. Jackie began cutting her bangs and sliced her face open with the scissors. Catching herself, she hears Rusty's voice echoing in her racing thoughts.
She will experience betrayal by an only friend.
Rusty had finally shared parts of the prophecy with Jackie to help ease her frustration. After learning about Kate and the prophecy, she decided she would be her only friend and not betray her. Jackie made it her mission to stop Kate from having any connections. She believed the opposite strategy of having many friends would not help the children of chaos avoid their fate of this so-called prophecy. More time passed by, and Jackie finally told Rusty about the beings in green scrubs that spoke to her while she was in the hospital.
Dad, I don't know if it was a dream or not,
she tells him with concern. Rusty, being a good listener, smiled. He was gaining the counterintelligence he needed from Jackie to help Kate. Rusty had several plans in place, despite being told there was nothing he could do to help Kate, beginning with his own sphere of influence, the Sacred Heartists. Rusty's family came from a long line of entertainers in the South. He knew Kate would be alone and isolated, but he knew music and movies could keep her company. He informed the magic makers of the South, who were also aware of the prophecy, how Kate's life would somehow help the greater good. The Sacred Heartists made sure all of the chosen children received guidance and protection through various forms of art. She received insight to her unnatural world in the form of entertainment. The angels continued to block and censor any information from entering Paramount. Anything that would bring truth to light or reveal negative things about their culture was edited and or removed from all content immediately. Thomas was also a friend of the Sacred Heartists, and he had in-depth discussions about the importance of entertainment being in the lives of those who were chosen. Not only were Rusty and Thomas well-connected gentlemen, they were also sportsmen. Notable players of the game from all walks of life were also aware of their roles in making assists to the family, especially when the gods' trials needed players to step up and compete. Thomas and Rusty understood how evil would have to be met by evil if the gods needed anyone who could stomach these harsh events to come. Both Thomas and Rusty were equipped to handle them. They stayed ready by being ruthless and frosty. 8. Rusty's enjoyment of placing bets on cockfights had him running in dark circles, interacting with bookies. Sports speculation, gambling, drinking, and women made this part of conducting business tolerable. He had the resources to engage in anything the nightlife might bring him. There was a young man by the name of Lawrence Jakes who happened to be paying attention to Rusty's activities, mostly because of his beautiful daughter, Jackie. Rusty had also been keeping a close eye on Lawrence because he was the favored underground prize fighter. Sitting in his black 68 Chevelle SS, listening to the song Sunshine of Your Love by Cream, Lawrence stared at Jackie and her friends laughing outside of the local ice cream parlor. His mind wandered to an event occurring later that night. In an underground boxing arena in downtown Paramount, he was giving his opponent a beating as the crowd cheered. Lawrence's patriarchal family were known as the Kings of Trade, going way back to the early days of trade. From the Emerald Corridor, the railroad, Louisiana steamboats, shipping via the ancient trade winds of the Atlantic and the ports of the Great Sea, his bloodline was linked to the Zoltan from Rusty's story regarding the curse of the hybrid eclipse. They were also known as the kings of the underworld, considered to be the gatekeepers of good and evil. The kings had the favor of the gods of the underworld. The family lineage also had a heavy French influence. The family's bloodline had been given many gifts and abilities. They were champions of the gods' trials. Lawrence, a deal-maker, was the person people went to get what they needed. Athletic, intelligent, and very handsome, he was a lot like Rusty. Both men were kind, strong in heart and mind, and operated from a place of passion. Lawrence was a natural at anything he did. As a player of the game, he played it well. His family made a living playing the game since it was created in the late 1800s. He made many people wealthy from a very young age, including Rusty. When he showed interest in Rusty's daughter, Jackie, Rusty kept the prophecy in the back of his mind. He thought about his future grandchildren and their protection, and he allowed his daughter to marry a very dangerous man. Jackie was a good kid, raised by Ariadne. Jackie was one of Rusty's favorite children. She was also a goddess with beautiful eyes and a sass that had Lawrence smitten. Their union was encouraged by both families. Lawrence and Jackie had 2 children, Ledger and Kate. They were young parents and did their best to be a cohesive family. Ledger was the family pride, being the firstborn. He did not like when Kate was born. After being dethroned as the only child, he went out of his way to rough her up. She had to stay on her toes, waiting for the next sucker punch from her brother. She adored him and forgave him for picking on her. He was her brother, and she looked up to him. He was taught to be mean like Lawrence, and Jackie did not approve of their mean streaks. Lawrence was extremely possessive of Jackie and insecure. He did not allow her to have much of a social life without any accusations. She finally divorced him after a decade of fighting. Kate loved her father and spent a lot of time with him until her parents got divorced. This separation had a lasting effect on Kate and her feelings of abandonment. Lawrence threatened Rusty when his daughter asked him for help to leave and move out. Rusty knew he had made a mistake letting the both of them get married. However, the impending evil Kate would have to face was always on his mind. His grandchildren needed to learn how to survive from a man like Lawrence, who had no fear of evil and was favored by the underworld. Rusty was accustomed to the good, the bad, and the ugly ways of life. He didn't think Lawrence would hurt his family. As a gentleman, he respected the source of Lawrence's passion, which was a combination of both love and anger. Finally, he agreed to take care of Ledger and Kate while the ugly separation between Lawrence and Jackie took place. Lawrence struck Jackie in the kitchen and stormed out of the house. Out of concern, one of Jackie's friends wanted him to come to her house so she could give him a tarot card reading. She told him that his daughter Kate was going to sacrifice herself for the greater good. This meant his death would end up saving her so she could fulfill her destiny and help break generational curses and humanity. The humanitarian Aquarian in him was proud that his daughter had a heart of gold, and he committed to making her the greatest player of the game. Lawrence began to teach young Kate how to play the game. He spent hours with her, teaching her how to solve puzzles and problems. His family loved her dearly. His father, Louis, noticed something special about her. Whenever she would visit the family, he would win big while gambling. He told people she was lucky, which made a lot of people dislike having her near their gambling circuit. Her presence equated with loss for suspicious gamblers playing cards for days on end. She was oblivious to her power, but recognized how people kept their distance from her upon entering a room. Some adults did not like her intelligence and wit. These types of reactions to her friendliness left her feeling like something was wrong with her. While visiting her grandparents, she would sit quietly observing the not-so-random behaviors of random people and found the environment entertaining. Kate looked a lot like her mother, with long, thick, wavy, dark brown auburn hair, brown eyes, and a charming smile like her father. Ariadne, Jackie's mother, also loved Kate. She sensed their native shamanic energy whenever Kate came over to visit. As a lonely child, she could be found laughing, singing, and dancing with the spirits from the underworld and the otherworld. She could see both shadow and light beings of the realms. They spoke to her clairsentient mind. The spirits protected and carried her with them between dimensions. As she walked through life, her strong vibrational energy affected the weather. By reflecting her mood, doors would either close quietly or slam shut behind her. As her energetic wave passed through like the wind, Ariadne enjoyed being social and talking with people. While she went about her business in town, she overheard people talking about a prophecy regarding Kate. The stories were made up about her granddaughter, suggesting the child was cursed by God. Shuddering inside as they whispered and carried on about Kate being a bad apple, they believed the child was going to destroy the world, or their world. She felt bad for Kate, telling herself,
"How could this child, with so much love and tenderness, do the things they speak of?"
She knew Kate was lonely and wanted to be her guide. She shielded her from others' attempts to dim her light. At the age of 5, Kate was playing outside of Rusty's home, where she found a baby hawk with a broken wing. She picked up the bird, held it close to her heart, and it began to heal. She had a deep connection with the animals, like some kind of magical wilderness princess. She whispers to the bird,
"I know how it hurts to be attacked and left behind. I'm sure you will find your family again soon."
The bird flew away and stayed perched on a tall tree nearby for 2 days. It watched over her as she played in the yard with the farm animals. When Kate told Ariadne and Rusty about the hawk, they felt like it was an omen from God. Looking out the window at Kate while she ran back outside to play, the weather started to change. Heavy raindrops thumped against the window. Rusty felt a sharp pain in his chest, and the vision he had the night he learned about the trade scrolls flashed back in his mind. He grabbed the countertop and reached up to his head.
Please don't let it be my Kate.
He cringes inside. 9. Rusty reluctantly called Thomas on the phone.
I've been waiting to hear from you, brother. I'm glad you called. I finally adopted Teddy a few years ago. He is a quiet kid, real neat and tidy. He doesn't play too well with the other kids, but for some reason, they keep coming back to hang out with him. He enjoys playing with his army men. He's pretty organized. I think we should meet.
Thomas urges. Rusty can hear the excitement in Thomas's voice and bullshits.
I would have gotten a hold of you sooner to tell you more about Kate, but my daughter recently went through a divorce. I didn't want to cause any problems by taking Kate away for the day from her father.
In reality, he was hoping the prophecy would not be about her. Thomas already had insight that it would be her, and he was waiting for Rusty to come to the same conclusion. Thomas tells Rusty,
I'm going to come to you this weekend. I'll bring Teddy with me.
Okay, brother. We'll see you then.
Rusty replies. Thomas looked over at Teddy playing his new Atari game console while he slammed down onto his personal collection of toys spread all over the ground. He sat close to the television while turning the knob to look for his treasured animation series. The song Blitzkrieg Bop by the Ramones blared in the background, and Thomas wondered how this spoiled, rotten child was going to interact with Kate.
Will this play date be anything like the last? And again, why am I entertaining this damn prophecy?
He questions himself.
Because I trust in and believe Claire. She has never let me down before.
He reassures himself while rolling his eyes. The weekend arrived. Kate was out with Jackie riding horses. Rusty called Jackie earlier and tells her,
I need you to get Kate ready to spend the weekend with me for a play date.
Jackie was used to Kate spending time with Rusty while driving around town. It was no big deal to have her visit with Rusty on short notice. Jackie, being the social butterfly, could not be more excited Kate would be interacting with other children her age. Jackie curled Kate's long hair and had her put on a pink shirt and a burgundy overall dress. Kate fussed whenever she had to wear a dress. She did not like the way tights pinched at her legs. She would rather be outside getting her clothes dirty, playing in the dirt and rescuing animals. Fond of field mice, she carried them around in her pockets, along with all of the pretty rocks rocks she collected. Animals were not afraid of her, and they stayed calm when she held them. Snakes did not like her, and they shirked away from her energy. Even though Ledger, her brother, would catch snakes and kill them, she disliked the idea of killing anything. She screamed her head off when he would lay snakes out onto the road and watch them get run over by the passing cars. She wanted to save all of the animals, even the ones that bit her. Kate also loved her chickens. They were so black they looked blue, and they followed her everywhere. They were her friends. The kids in the area were not allowed to play with her. She was treated by the community like she was damned to hell. She was a lot like Teddy, being shy and quiet. The social differences between them were reflected in their friends. Kate had no friends, not by choice, and Teddy tried to not have any real connections by choice. He had people over to keep him company, but he viewed them as toys. He liked his toys that never spoke back. He found clever ways to entertain himself with his interactive toys. Like Kate, he was taught to trust no one, sans the love and affection one receives from their caregiver. He was a lot like the Harlow monkey, detached, disconnected, and cute. Rusty picked Kate up at noon and drove to one of his properties, where he asked Thomas to have his driver stop. Rusty pulled up in a 1977 Lincoln Continental. As the dust from the road began to settle, he could see Thomas's dark Lincoln town car in the distance. Taking a long look at his Kate, who was smiling while looking out the window at the wildflowers along the bank of the creek. He trusted Thomas, but was a bundle of nerves about the entire situation. Thomas and Rusty both got out of their vehicles, shook hands, and leaned in to hug. They rested against Rusty's car to look at their kids. Thomas bends down to talk to Teddy and says,
"Theodore Westside, I want you to meet Miss Catherine Jakes,"
with a smile on his face. Doe-eyed Kate looked at Thomas, then Teddy, and smiled. Teddy blushed back to grab onto Thomas's leg. He didn't know who she was, but he liked her. Once they got over the initial introduction, both Kate and Teddy wandered off to play. Kate had something in her dress pocket. It was the black arrowhead rock from Rusty's pendant. Instinctually, she took it out and gave it to Teddy, flashing to Kate collecting rocks and finding the Master Scroll's arrowhead amulet on Rusty's dresser. She took it to Rusty and swung it in front of him to see if it was okay if she played with it. Rusty gently grabbed the necklace. Removing the arrowhead, he placed the stone in her hand so she could add it to her collection of rocks. After learning the arrowhead had no real magical powers, he stopped wearing it. Fading back to Teddy looking at the arrowhead in his hand, he lit up with happiness because she gave him something. He was used to having his precious things taken by his siblings. Clenching the arrowhead in his hand, he hurried to hide it away in his pocket. Something strange was going on with Kate and Teddy as they communicated. They were not talking with words. They were reading each other's minds. She asks him without saying a word,
"Will you be my friend?"
He reaches out to hug her and replies,
"Yes."
They smiled at each other and began to run through the fields and chased butterflies. Teddy told Kate he liked her hair and thought she was pretty. She grabbed him by the hand and showed him some snake grass growing near the creek. He took the arrowhead from his pocket and carved a smiley face into the dirt. She smiled because none of her farm friends knew how to express themselves in writing. He seemed to be enchanted by the magic and fun time he was having with her. Thomas and Rusty could hear them laughing and giggling as they enjoyed each other's silliness. Kate brought with her enough energy and love to power the universe, containing a magnetic force from all realms and dimensions for entities to gravitate toward and communicate with. The positive interaction she was having with Teddy seemed to be igniting an energetic field around them, setting off alarms and alerting the angels. Envious of her power to attract or emit positive energy, they continued to track and isolate her. They obsessed over her and fed off her energy. Rusty and Thomas could see people in the distance, spying on their playdate. Thomas gives Rusty a sly glance and says with a smile,
"That turned out better than last time."
Thomas liked Kate, but he was sad for Teddy. He knew the power of having love just out of reach would be hard on him. He knew the power of and love of money to be much stronger in this world anyway. The gods were concerned only about missions related to the trade scrolls and their ability to maintain power and control. Knowing the gods would not allow his prospect, Teddy, to love Kate without any pain or heartache. The relationship was both a beautiful and terrible thing. Love could make Teddy weak and a target, so he vowed to make Teddy strong. He thought that blocking him from feeling extreme emotions would fix that problem. His son would have to help Kate in the future, in addition to rescuing the world from evil. He felt this could be done by showing him how to embody that evil, uncertain as to whether the bond they shared would end up being a weakness or a strength for them. Rusty was also afraid for Kate, and he continued to do nothing to interfere with the prophecy as instructed. He told himself he would give her any necessary information on a need-to-know basis. Thomas can tell Rusty is worried and says,
"Hey man, what do you say we go celebrate and have a drink over dinner? I brought a bottle of Bordeaux with me."
Rusty, a man of few words, responds with sadness in his eyes.
"Okay, let's go."
Rusty put on a smile and rounded up Kate to take her home. Teddy did not like the idea of having to leave his new friend. He walked slowly back to the car, kicking rocks along the way. She was still bubbling with excitement over her new friend and kept waving at him as they drove away. Thomas tucked Teddy away into the car with their driver. Thomas turns to Teddy and says,
"That girl is your first friend, buddy. They call her Kate."
Teddy gripped the arrowhead she gave him tight in his hand and tells himself he would never let go of it. Still communicating with Kate in his mind, he tells her,
"I had the best time today."
The song, My Girl, by The Temptations, played in the car as they drove away. Thomas left Teddy with their driver in the hotel room to watch television while he met up with Rusty. He had done this many times before. Teddy was used to the television being his sitter. Over dinner, Rusty asks,
"What do you think?"
"You know me, Rusty. I don't do anything unless I'm certain. I consulted with Claire. She sensed this meeting would be a reunion worth celebrating, hence the bottle of 61.
While lifting his brows, Thomas poured Rusty another glass and then himself.
"To be honest, I'm surprised Teddy took a liking to Kate. That little bastard doesn't like anyone,"
he says, while toasting Rusty. They shook their heads laughing and continued to eat their dinner in deep thought, always working together. They didn't say much, as they both knew they were always being watched in the shadows by the angels. 10. Teddy enjoyed exploring and doing research in Claire's antiquarium. Obsessed with esoteric knowledge, he meticulously combed through Claire's private collection, which included the trade scrolls. Taking an interest in the science fiction fantasy genres, like Star Wars, he frequented the heroic comic book scene. With Thomas as his father, he had access to people, places, and things that most people would never dream of. Like Kate, he also loved playing games and cracking codes. Among his circle of friends, he became known as one of the most strategic players of the game. While attending private school, he learned several languages like French and Latin. He excelled in defensive martial arts, wrestling, basketball, and skateboarding. His life was packed with a lot of activities and events. He was constantly on the move. Teddy's favorite activity was attending baseball games with Thomas in the city. This was where Thomas taught him how to finesse the world of the gods. He showed Teddy how to apply the knowledge of the trade scrolls to business, while casually discussing their roles in the prophecy. However, Thomas also used cruel methods and sadistic military training to keep Teddy guessing and ready for anything. Thomas lovingly flicked Teddy's ear to pay attention while they walked through the halls of their family's castle. He explained the battle strategy behind each ancient warrior's armor, which were on display like trophies. Thomas worried about Teddy being a spoiled brat, but remembered he heard somewhere that the worst thing you could unleash onto the world was a spoiled child, so he continued to give him everything he wanted. He broke down Teddy's spirit and heart daily by withholding that unconditional form of love. He wanted him rotten and cold. The psychological torment of mixed signals kept Teddy confused, yet calculating everyone's next move. Teddy was conditioned to live a double life and to keep secrets. Uneasy about his relationship with Thomas and his identity, he wondered where he fit into his family. Then one day he was told he was adopted. Thomas decided to tell him. For one, he wanted to discuss the issues he had with his own family, and two, he needed to even the playing field amongst his children. He did not want Teddy to think he was better than his siblings, despite being the favored son. The greatest secret Thomas kept from Teddy was the existence of the Master Scroll, and went out of his way to cover up Teddy's potentially cursed bloodline and connection to the Master Scroll. Teddy never felt whole, knowing his mother had given him away to be adopted. This was a major blow to his sense of identity and source of power. He resented his mother for giving him away and her decision to not be a part of his life. He could give two shits about the person he was told could be his father. Despite feeling unloved at times, he knew he was protected. However, he longed for this feeling of love he experienced one time when he was younger. Naturally a romantic at heart, he could not seem to find that feeling from anyone or anything. As a teen, Teddy found comfort hanging out in the rebellious scene. Living a punk lifestyle, he wanted to make a radical statement. His natural creativity was stunted among the conventional society, and among the eccentric he was welcome. Teddy would get angry with Thomas because Thomas could be moody and came across as being cold and indifferent to Teddy's adolescent antics. He performed all kinds of stunts for attention. Teddy attempted to escape the heavy influence of substance abuse at home. Taking off from his home, he ran to the streets of the city to link up with his battalion of friends. After a night of abusing substances himself, he would return home on his best behavior, out of respect for Thomas's efforts to discipline him. Thomas noticed when Teddy was absent from the home, but had his own ghosts to deal with. Thomas taught Teddy about the beauty of balance and how to be both a poet and a warrior, to know when to pick your battles. Thomas tried to make his sneak attacks on Teddy playful, especially during those formative 4 years of militant training he put him through. Teddy would use humor to mask the twisted pain of being broken down and built back up. Every day Teddy heard,
"Stand straight."
He was treated like a military dog with pedigree and learned to sit still for long periods at a time. Thomas knew Teddy needed to take life seriously, making sure he learned the skills he needed to survive the dark side and to protect Kate in the future. Out of fear and anger, Thomas would banish Teddy from partaking in family business for breaking protocol. Teddy had a fear of being alone. He learned how to walk a tightrope and stay in line or get severely punished. Every day seemed like a never-ending circus of obstacles and challenges presented by Thomas. Thomas loved Teddy the best way he could. Despite being absent and working most of the time, he worked behind the scenes to surprise and reward Teddy with animated cartoon series that combined his favorite things like wrestling, magic, and mythos to keep him company. Thomas felt the best way to teach and connect with Teddy would be to point out the list of typecast characteristics among the gods and regular people in television shows and movies. Thomas warned Teddy to not get attached to people and discouraged any expression of emotion. He was trained to become a cloaked executioner by devaluing people and seeing them as a body count, while at the same time being cordially polite. Thomas emphasized how people would come and go like the wind, just like he did, compounding Teddy's deep-seated feelings of abandonment. The hot and cold show of affection from Thomas sent Teddy's inner child into hiding in order to disassociate from any kind of emotional pain. He continued to develop an anxious, avoidant attachment style and struggled with his self-worth. Like Thomas, Teddy enjoyed celebrating as a way of life, learning early how easy life could be. If Teddy wanted something, he got it, especially when it came to the ladies. He never really had to exert any effort to attain superficial and sexual relationships. On those rare occasions when he did not get what he wanted, he would channel his dissatisfaction, anger, cunning, and vengeance into manipulative strategies to help him achieve his goal. He viewed life and people as puzzles to be solved or a game to be played. Having access to Thomas's command center, this empowered him to control his domain to include other people's lives. However, his connection to the curse of the hybrid eclipse left him feeling powerless when it came to finding true love. Curious about the trade scrolls, Teddy often asked Thomas or Claire about the prophecy, and Kate. Preoccupied with studying to attain wealth and how to control others, his knowledge of magic and his power increased. He was also worried about letting Thomas down, that somehow he would not see the full picture of the prophecy, and he began to obsess about obtaining insight to the mysteries of the trade scrolls. One afternoon, Thomas could see the frustration building up in Teddy, so he took him to see Claire. The meeting was scheduled so they could discuss his potential role in the trade scroll prophecies and Kate. Claire treated Teddy like her own. She was affectionate to his playful, tender side and did all she could to help guide him and answer all of his questions. That day, she performed an intuitive reading on Teddy to include Kate. She began her reading with the vision first and closed her eyes.
I see a great love, and I feel great pain. She will want to be more than friends with you. She will love you more than life itself, but will marry another. Maintaining the friendship will be both an obstacle and challenge presented by the gods. There will be a lot of conflict and jealousy over this connection. Your goal will be to get to know her, no matter what happens. Cherish every moment you have with her, because those moments will be few.
Teddy asks Claire,
"Why do I feel like I already know her?"
Because she was your first friend, remember?
Thomas reminds him while walking into the parlor carrying the Master Scroll box. Teddy could vaguely remember. He never noticed the box Thomas was carrying in Claire's place. He thought he had seen them all. His eyes widened as Thomas placed the artifact down before him on the table. Teddy could tell Thomas was nervous but could not figure out why. Thomas knew giving the Master Scroll to Teddy would be his own kind of karma that he would have to face, the certainty of death. Something Thomas had to order time and time again while in the military, but for others.
"What is it?"
Teddy asks, careful not to cross any boundaries.
I am giving you the Master Key.
Thomas says with an eerie calm in his voice.
While the trade scrolls gave us a blueprint and a prophecy about the business of trade, the Master Scroll gave us, the holders, power.
Thomas lifted the lid on the box to reveal the violet glow. Teddy's eyes lit up like golden cat eyes, like they had before when he was an infant. Somehow Teddy was linked to the Master Scroll. Teddy looks over at Thomas and Claire.
"I see a little man dancing in happiness."
They had no idea what would happen this time with Teddy, or if he would see the same things Rusty did.
What else?
Claire asks. Teddy says,
"I see the word jubilation, and the symbol of the dancing man that is etched on the other scrolls. There is water, deep water. It is sparkling, and the word or words, Baal of the seas."
Teddy saw a flash and the waters disappeared.
"There is blood in the water, or there was."
He questions as he blinks his eyes. A haunting message transmits to him.
"If you want to become a master, it is going to cost you. You will have to sacrifice what you love most. Simply add your wish in blood, but prepare to pay the price."
Teddy gulped as he tried to process all of the new information. He already received the benefits of the trade scrolls, however, being linked to the Master's bloodline also gave him the ability to read the Master Scroll like Rusty. Teddy's lack of security of not knowing where he came from and his abandonment issues had him longing for the power to control everything. Teddy sat back in his chair and looked at Thomas and Claire, who were standing there with fear in their eyes.
"Can I keep this?"
Teddy asks them.
For now, let's keep the scrolls together and kept safe.
Thomas instructs.
You are welcome to stop by anytime, Teddy, to look at it, like always.
Claire tells him in a warm tone. At a loss for words and in total amazement, he waited in silence for Thomas to end their meeting.
Are you okay, son? That's a lot to take in.
Thomas checks in with him.
I mean, it is a lot. Thank you.
Teddy acknowledges. Thomas could see Teddy squirming to get up, to leave, and he started to look uncomfortable as hell. He says with a smile,
When you're ready, get out of here.
Teddy jumped up and ran out the back door of the shop, like a dog that just had a bath.
Keep an eye on him, Claire.
Thomas tells her.
It is in fate's hands now.
As he leans in to give her a hug.